Hello and welcome to another special video. In this one, rather than try to teach you about finance or things like that, I'm instead going to talk about something more fun where, honestly, I would count my opinion a lot less. And that is looking for Manchester United's next top striker. Obviously, a huge focus this summer is on striker. And there are a few names that United have already been keeping tabs on that I know of that I'm going to detail and profile in this video, talk about what they would do, go through some ratings, some stats, some things like that, just to get an idea of maybe the pluses and minuses for each. Now, of course, bear in mind, some of these are going to be, just my opinion. And so, feel free to disagree with me on any of this stuff. But these are five names that are under consideration for Manchester United in terms of striker this summer, in a position where they intend to spend quite likely the bulk of the budget in order to solve the problems that are going on in the scoring department, or at least heavily contribute to them. So I want to look at who some of these options are, the good, the bad, and what we think about them, and kind of discuss the merits of each. So let's get right into it. United's next top striker. Was just having fun with this one, but if I could, I would have made it even more fun if I knew how to video edit and get like America's Next Top Model or something. Anyway, that's an American thing, but regardless, yeah, there we go. So what kind of striker do we want, first of all? Well, and here's where I think that I personally can shed some knowledge a little bit on some aspects of this evaluation, given that, again, I did watch a lot of Sporting under Ruben Amorim and look at his style. And he has used different styles of strikers in the past, but there's a few things he always has liked. Number one is he likes someone who is capable of running into the channels with some pace. He wants them to have a high variety of movements around the box. They need elite finisher. I mean, everybody wants an elite finisher, so that's obvious. Pace and power, he's made a big point of this. He does like a striker that can work in with the front three a bit. Certainly, having that ability to play with the other narrow forwards is helpful. They need to be at least capable in terms of passing, in terms of link up and things like that. Very often they are, and they can be used as a part of the tool in the build-up. But, these are not all weighted evenly. And at the end of the day, the biggest thing is he does like a traditional goal scorer, someone who's going to score a lot of goals and needs that. And they are a huge focal point of his teams, is getting those strikers scoring goals. That has been a success of his throughout his time at Sporting. And so, some of these things are a little less important than goals. You need that. So I'm going to give them 5 ratings out of 5 based on their fit into the United team and kind of the profile itself, their current ability, their potential, their cost, and the potential that they are a bust if we buy them. Now, when I say potential, it's going to be a little bit interesting because there's going to be a mixture of players here who have potential and players who are already fulfilling their potential. And in that sense, a lower, in that sense, it's they may have a lower potential than someone who's not as good at the moment. But I'll kind of explain why as I go through it as well. What's the problems first with Højlund and Xerxes? I think is worth discussing here. Each of them is kind of missing key traits when we look at it, right? Xerxes brought good movement, good link-up play. He receives the ball well. He gets the ball around. He actually creates for others, but he's not really a goal scorer. He definitely doesn't bring elite pace and power. Now, he's actually not doing so bad on the goals at this point in time. And, Højlund historically has brought pretty elite finishing, but this season, frankly, Xerxes doing better at all aspects of it at the moment. The other issues I think with Højlund at the moment is that he's unable to create space for himself and get others involved. He's unable to create anything for himself at all. And that's sometimes okay if you have an elite box presence and you're able to get yourself on the end of chances, but he's not doing that either. Not that there's a ton of those, but we've seen it in many games that even in there was games even earlier in the season where Xerxes was doing really well getting into the box, even though he was missing. I think about the Liverpool game way back, a long time ago. He had a couple chances he should have scored. But regardless, neither of them are doing particularly well here at it. And it's not all just down to lack of service. Bruno Fernandes has 8 expected goals in the league. Garnacho has 7 expected goals in the league. Ahmad has 4 expected goals in the league, and neither of them have reached either of those levels despite significant minutes. Now, Xerxes per minute is actually pretty good. But realistically, neither of them is doing enough for themselves or for others right now to solve the problems for United. So that is definitely, the major concern at this point in time. So let's start with contestant number 1 in United's next top striker, and that's Liam Delap. Now, there's been talk of Liam Delap here at Ipswich Town, that United are interested in him. City, of course, have a buyback. We'll talk about that. Now, I wanted to highlight him first because I think he's an interesting profile. I don't think he's necessarily the best option, but an interesting one. And one thing in particular I wanted to look at, while and it speaks to this aspect of service as well. While he's in only the 5th percentile in terms of passes received, he ends up in the 62nd percentile. Non-penalty goals and expected goals is pretty good too, and 80th for offensive actions. So what this means is that even though he doesn't get the ball a lot, he finds a way to make things happen. And I think that is Liam Delap's greatest strength at the moment, is he finds a way to make things happen. Now, if you look at where he's playing for Ipswich, he's around the box a lot. We look at his, at how Ipswich play. Obviously, they're just poor, right? In general, compared to the Premier League, they're just poor. We know that they're probably going to be relegated. They try to play a good style, but they don't have the team for it. So they don't have a lot of the ball. They don't have a lot of things. And obviously this dictates a fair bit of the position that Liam Delap plays in. Now, he's got good movement and positioning, especially outside the box, getting on the ball, finding a way to get it. He finds a lot of spaces to carry the ball as well. That's the type of, and again, this is about position and fit. So stylistically, getting the ball around and finding ways to carry it into spaces. The biggest concern I have with him is a lack of box presence. And this is where I think it depends on your view of the striker, but I think it's a really big risk if we go for strikers who continue to be, and that's going to be a theme of this discussion too, for strikers who continue to be guys playing on the run who don't necessarily have a great box presence, or we haven't seen proof of their box presence. And I will show some evidence as to what concerns me about that. So I think that he's fit-wise, he's kind of like Højlund in some ways. I'm not saying the same level of player at this moment because he's certainly doing better. But where he's not really a box presence, but at least we haven't seen it as of yet. He might become that kind of guy, but we don't have enough evidence to suggest he is. So for now, he's picking up the ball and carrying it from different areas in order to create chances for himself, which is a good trait, but maybe not what the exact right player at this point, or at least there's not enough evidence to suggest it. And that's why I've given him a 3 out of 5. His current ability, record, and history, when we look at it, obviously came through the City youth ranks, moved over to Stoke, went to Preston, went to Hull, went to Ipswich. There's good things about some of this. The things that's positive is he's a good finisher. He's gotten it up to 18% of his shots are going in. That's a good finishing rate in the Premier League. He's got 3 left foot, 4 right foot goals, 4 left foot, 5 right foot goals. So he's very balanced in scoring with both feet. That is a good skill set to have. And here's what I was highlighting before. Progressive carries, take-ons, and shot creating actions are very high. So even though he doesn't get on the ball much, he's really good at making chances for himself. That's a positive. To me, that is a positive in terms of creating for himself in a struggling team in terms of ability. But at present, he also doesn't really have any prolific seasons, and you wouldn't expect him to at Ipswich, but he just doesn't. Now, the current one, by end of season, 15 more games. Could he end up with 15-plus goals? Perhaps. So we'll see on that. Does not score with his head. Not an aerial presence in the box. And there's not, and there's really not much evidence of link-up play with the front three at all. So there's going to be other strikers we look at who don't do that much link-up, but they're absolutely elite in the box, and there's a bit of a difference there. I get a little concerned about a striker who drops out, picks it up in the spaces, and carries really well, but doesn't really pass well. So it's a bit one-dimensional, and then maybe it's similar to playing like a Marcus Rashford at striker or something like that. So, there's just some concerns there, and a lot of it is down to age and lack of evidence, but that's what we've got. So for right now on ability, and I'm not comparing him to other 21-year-olds. I'm talking about ability compared to all strikers. I gotta say around a 2 out of 5. But the next one is potential, of course. And that's, again, 2 out of 5 is not bad. I'm not trying to say he's a bad striker, but we're talking about ratings in terms of, out of just an arbitrary rating out of 5 as to what United needs. Is he going to bring that? I don't know. Højlund and Xerxes might be 1 out of 5s at the moment. He'd bring a 2 out of 5. I think it would be an improvement, but you wouldn't really be signing him for who he is today. It would have to come down to potential. And this is what I see. So obviously, he's 22 years old, so he's still young, still has time to develop, but he's not super young. 6'1". His finishing is improving every single year. That's a very good sign for potential. He has an upward arc in his first year in Premier League. He's scoring at a higher rate than he was in the Championship. That's also a positive sign. He has good physical tools. He's fast. He's very fast. He's got a lot of those types of things. But I do have concerns over his interplay and passing, and I have concerns over whether he becomes the right box presence. I think Liam Delap will become a very good striker, but I'm not sure if he has good potential. So I give him a decent rating on 4 out of 5 because I think he has a lot of tools to become a very good striker, but there's still a runway there. Then I want to talk about cost and bust potential. This is kind of the last two categories mushed together. Then I won't explain these so much, and we'll go through the next ones. Estimated 45 million buyback should set a price benchmark. That's estimated what City have as a buyback. His wages aren't very high. So realistically, he's not that expensive. The wages would be, his whole cost would be covered fully by the departures of Casemiro or Rashford, either one. And, and that makes him a good, probably the most affordable option of all the ones we're going to look at here. And I'd give him a 5 out of 5 on that. So when you look at like potential and cost, he's a good, but would be potentially a good buy here, but you are then really buying on potential with Liam Delap. In terms of bust potential, he's got upward trending. He's in the Premier League. It's an easier transition. Physicality is not an issue. The biggest concerns I have is he's a bit too self-reliant. The box, he does not show really much in terms of box presence versus attacking spaces, poor passing and interplay. So I think there's a decent chance he doesn't solve the problem if he comes to United, because I don't know, as we become a dominant territorial possession team, as we get into where we want to be as a team, is he going to be that guy who has a striker's instincts around the box, or is he going to be another player that has to play on the run? That's my concern. So I think there's a decent chance of a bust here. And so the lower rating means the higher chance of a bust. And by bust, I don't mean they turn into a bad player. I mean, they don't end up solving United's problems. Doesn't mean they're not even an improvement. But yeah, so I give him a 16 out of 25 in total. I think he's a good player. I think he has potential. But I think you're signing based on that potential, and there are concerns that he becomes another striker signed that is mostly playing on the run. And that may not be what we need moving forward. Benjamin Sesko. So really, really interesting player here. When you look at, his numbers and everything overall, he's pretty good at everything. He's pretty good at everything. He's very unique in that sense. It's a little hard to judge sometimes. One of the things I want to highlight here is you compare his expected goals to his non-penalty goals. He's finishing at an almost impossible rate, and that's good and bad. It's just, you don't want to say it's bad, because it's not bad, but it doesn't mean it's going to continue at that rate. And so the fact that he's not getting that many chances may be something of a concern. That showed up too early. Position and fit. So again, if we look at him, my biggest concern is where he plays and how Leipzig plays. Fully on the counter, 91st percentile for counters, much lower in possession, much lower in all these other aspects. And you look at his positioning, not a box striker. Once again, a player dropping around all over the place. Very good at that aspect. So again, like if you were to compare him to Joshua Xerxes, very good at dropping around into spaces and picking the ball up. I think that's a positive. He's one of the things where he is better than Joshua Xerxes for sure in this aspect is he's finding the spaces to carry and progress the ball himself. He's very good on ball, very competent on ball, excellent in that regard. But he's finding those spaces. But there is, again, the concerns over lack of box presence and the Bundesliga. In terms of position and fit, I have concerns over that. that fit from the Bundesliga to the Premier League just because of the spaces involved. And that is still, again, an on the run, outside the box type of player that may not fit totally in the long term. So I got to give that a 3 out of 5. On current ability, I have some concerns here. But he's an insane finisher. I mean, he finished 3 out of 10 shots last season, 2.6 out of 10 shots this season, 26%. Those are insane numbers. 18% before that. So it's not like he's ever been a bad finisher, but he's finishing at an incredible rate at this point in time. Like, I mean, something fantastic. Um, Albeit on average, it's about 20%, still very, very good. Two-headed goal. Look, these are 2 seasons. He's doing it all, both feet and headers. That's good. He's got great shooting traits as well in terms of power, things like that too. He can score some incredible goals. Fantastic physical. He is a rocket of a foot. If you watch him, he's a rocket of a foot. But a great physical profile. Very tall, very fast, strong. Unique in that respect. But his scoring is a little bit in decline this season. It's not like he's having a bad year, but his per minutes last year in 1790s, he scored 14 goals, and this year it's only 9. That is a little bit of a concern that it's been getting. It's going down a little bit in the same team. When we look kind of overall shot creating actions, it's kind of odd. I'm a little confused by him because while with Liam Delap you can see progressive carries and take-ons result in a lot of shot carrying actions, for Benjamin Sesko, he's very good at carrying the ball and his passing is better, but he doesn't really create for himself. So he's not taking a lot of shots. So it feels like he's more of a build-up striker, and then he's getting some chances now and again and scoring them really well when he gets them. But there are a lot of you just maybe a bit on the run, on the counter. That's what we usually see with something like this, is a striker who's finishing chances on the counter. And that would be my main concern, not creating much for himself and not enough evidence of box instincts for a territorial dominant side. Is he reliant on dropping in, helping get you going on the break and then finishing off the break? He might be elite in that area, but I'm not sure otherwise. So 3 out of 5 there. Again, relevant to us, right? And where we're going, I think, is really important to note here. In terms of potential, overall, young, 21 only, 6'5", incredibly unique physical profile, Haaland-esque in terms of the speed, in terms of the size, in terms of all of that. Very skillful for his size, very good on the ball, brings that unique skill set. And has unreal finishing. I'm just concerned mostly that he's going to end. He's semi-similar to what we've seen with Joshua Zirkzee. Now, not the same, but just stylistically and how they're going to play. He's more pacey and things like that, and a better finisher, but a lot of the finishing and attacking is still on the run. And he doesn't take a lot of shots. So I'm not sure about him against a low block. I'm not sure about his box presence. I'm not sure about that instinctual number 9. But he's obviously a really good player. He has so many tools that if you could get him to do that, then you might have a really top player. So I got to give a high potential for him as well. The cost and bust potential, I think, is worth noting here. Could be fairly expensive. 65 million, likely to have a lot of competition. He's on decent wages at the moment. They're due for a bump. Big striker pricing for potential. 2 out of 5, I gotta say there, because he's expensive for potentially still a bit of a prospect. More expensive than Delap on the pricing. In terms of bust potential, he's got great physical tools, age and finishing. These are things that are hard to teach, but it's more like we just don't really know that he's actually going to be a good player in a dominant side, and that he may be more of, again, one of these build-up strikers that needs direct runners off of him, which I'm not sure is what we need. And based on Amram's selection is not what we need. And so on that, I also give him a 2 out of 5, where it's a decent chance of a bust and that he doesn't solve the problems, but becomes another guy where we need, where he's very useful, good, but doesn't really solve our striker problems, isn't that real goal scorer we want. So I give him a 14 out of 25. I think there's a big risk with him because of the cost associated, because of the Bundesliga, because of the way that he plays. I think there's a big risk for us. I think you look at a team like Arsenal, who for whatever reason continue to look at like I don't know, these half strikers. Like, we don't need another 9.5. You know what I'm saying? That's where I'm at. Even though he has insane physical tools, we don't need another 9.5. That's my concern with him. Is he's very much a 9.5. But that brings me to contestant number 3, who's definitely not a 9.5, and that's Samu Agahawa, formerly Omorodion at Porto. We look at him, he's one of the best current goal scorers in Europe, and is as close as it gets to a real number 9. Looking at the way that Porto play here is what I wanted to note. They are one of the highest possession teams in Portugal. They do face low blocks. In Portugal, you do have to break those teams down, and they're top pressing team too, which is an interesting note. But they don't counter that much, and they're closer to where as a team we're probably moving, you know? I talked about this in some of the recent videos, but we're moving away from the counters and trying to up the possession and the control. Well, and I'll look at Sporting in a minute when we get to one player, but um, you look at his positioning, red in the box. This is a number 9. This is a number 9. He has amazing box presence. He's elite. You can watch him play. He will find a way to get a goal in that box. When the ball is coming into the box, he's going to find a way to get on the end of it. He's going to find a way to score. He has great instincts there. He's very fast, very effective on the run as well. He's usually, you can see obviously every striker drops around and is involved. Doesn't do a lot of it, but he is competent picking up the ball, running with it a bit, but more usually again, that's not really going to be how he's scoring, but he is fast and he will score in the box on a run. And we saw that against us, that on the break, Porto were just as dangerous, even though they don't do it as much, him finishing those chances in the box. But it's not just those, right? He spends a lot of time in that danger area for a team that has a lot of possession. It's probably the clearest out and out traditional number 9 that we will be looking at. He's not going to give you a ton outside the box. He's not going to give you a ton in the buildup. But position and fit, I think, for what we need, a 4 out of 5. We have not had a guy who's elite in the box, elite finishing, elite scoring chances in quite some time. But a traditional number 9 who is fast, who obviously can still score on the break, is very competent in it. He's not slow. He will get in that box for those chances on the break, but also when you're not on the break, he's going to score. For the direction we're going, I think he's a 4 out of 5 in terms of fit. On current ability, record, and history, it's actually incredible as well here. He's a pure number 9 with great goal scoring instincts. None of these are all non-penalty goals, right? 13 goals, 1377 minutes is very good. Both feet and headers, 3 headed goals, 2 left foot, 8 right foot, 3-3-3 the season before. He'll score with whatever he's got. He's fast, he's strong, he's tall. He faces low blocks in Portugal for a possession-based team. Being able to score against those types of teams is something, again, we have not had in a long, long time. Honestly, since Lukaku. And I think that some people might take that as a negative comparison, but Lukaku and that kind of a flat track bully aspect of him, where against teams where they were settled in defensively, he would score. We've been missing that for a long time now. We can't beat the small teams, consistently because we cannot score. And some of that's chance creation, mind you, but we also don't have strikers who are very good around the box. We just don't. And I think that's a great skill to have, and I think it's a skill that is missing. And when you're talking about going to, this is what differentiates when you're talking about big clubs that face low blocks versus strikers from mid-tier clubs, where in terms of their ability for horses for courses for what is needed, it's a bit different. So I really like him. He had a good record even in Spain at 19 years old. He 8 goals and 1,900 minutes is quite good at 19 as well for Alaves. And yeah, and he's kept that up in Portugal at only 20. Thing with him is you're going to have to get the ball in the box, right? So how good he would be is somewhat dependent on the team. And that's okay. Because if you're building top team, you say the same thing about Erling Haaland. When City are shit, he's shit. That doesn't make him not a top striker, but when City are shit, he's shit. We need to get good enough where you can have someone who, when you can create chances, they are going to score a lot of goals. And I think that's him. So I give him a 4 out of 5 on current ability because he's already doing extremely well in a skill set that we need, that we lack, and that isn't really out there. And in terms of potential, 20 years old. He's already doing this. 6'4", fast as hell, incredible physical tools. He's not clumsy. He's not out of control. He's very, very good. Great finishing. His finishing rate is excellent as well. 28% of his shots are scored this season. That's really good. Again, really good there. He has great instincts in the box, finding the goal. Something, again, we've lacked. He has a good growth arc, upward trend in two strong leagues. I think performing in La Liga and in Portugal by his age are fantastic. But he hasn't offered much else outside of scoring goals. Still, on potential, I give him a 5 out of 5 because it is rare to find a striker with his physical tools that is scoring goals, and he's doing it in Europa League as well, mind you. And he's done it at any senior level that he's been at. That has these physical tools, that level of finishing, those level of box instincts. It is hard to find guys who do that in the top league. So potential wise, again, I think 5 out of 5 in terms of what he could become if you have the right team. Cost and bust potential. He has 100 million euros release clause. I don't think he'll go for that. He's likely to cost 60 to 80. Low wages, and so that means that you can kind of afford it. But it is a big cost for potential, so a 2 out of 5 there. Again, in terms of bust potential, incredible physical tools, age and finishing, hard to teach, top box striker in Portugal, faces low blocks. So I think, he has the skill set for what we need, and he will transfer it well, but you have to get the ball into the box. There's a little concern there that can we get away with someone who you need to get him the ball in those chances? Obviously as a team we need to do that, but it could hurt. I don't know whether we're going to be good enough for that. So if we sign him, there is a little bit of bust potential, but give him a 3 there. So more likely that it works out than doesn't. An 18 out of 25. I like him the most out of the young prospects of the 3 that I've mentioned. Then we go on to contestant number 4, Victor Osimhen. And in here, you're getting a top striker, period. There's no question about it. You are getting a fantastic striker, scores goals everywhere he goes. Position and fit, great box presence. For Napoli, a team that, again, higher possession, lower on the counter, he will score you goals. He has the same positives I'd say about Agahawa. Obviously, Osimhen has been doing it for longer, but he's great box present. He's also fast and effective on finishing chances on the run. Very well-rounded, modern number 9. 5 out of 5 position and fit. He's the right guy at the right place. On current ability, record, and history, he does it all for sure. He headers in a right foot. He doesn't really use his left for scoring goals. Maybe a little concern, but not a huge concern. Fast, strong, good size at 6'1". He has very, very good box instincts. Everywhere he plays, he's successful. I mean, he scored in the Belgian First Division, scored at Lille, scored at Napoli, didn't miss a beat. Anywhere he goes, he's scoring goals. So you know what you're getting with him. You have small injury concerns because he's had little hamstring injuries every year. Nothing major since the facial injury, but they're just a little bit niggling and haven't gone away. And his playmaking is not elite, but that you don't necessarily need that because he's so good there. Will he be the best striker in the world? No, but I think 4 out of 5 on presence, potential. 4 out of 5, I think, because what you see is what you get. So you give him the same rating there. I could give him a 5 out of 5, but for small injury concerns and, just he's had one very prolific season. I think you're going to get a consistent. I think you sign Osimhen, you get 15 goals, and I think that's very good. It's not necessarily 5 out of 5, but I think it's very good, and I think that's what we need. I think it's almost a guarantee though, so that's what makes it so attractive as well, and that leads to the cost and bust potential aspect. 75 million euros probably the cost, but Napoli are also interested in United players, which could offset it. Big wages, that's a factor. He'd probably be the most expensive option, but offset by player swap. 3 out of 5. Performs wherever he goes. League One, Serie A, Turkey, European competitions. He has a pretty guaranteed skill set, enough history of data to see he's going to perform and score goals. Most expensive choice. Will he reach the heights needed? So that's where I say he's basically impossible that he busts. Okay, it's about as low a chance as possible that Victor Osimhen will bust at United. And so I'll give him a 21 out of 25 on that basis because I think that all told, he comes in, you're gonna get goals out of Osimhen. You're gonna get 15, and that's enough. It's not gonna be a bust. It's gonna work. Could it be the best possible? No, or it'd be 25 out of 25. But it's pretty damn good in terms of the market, what's out there, and unless you're going and nabbing someone who you can't get. Then there's Victor Gyokeres. Um, Again, a player does absolutely everything as well. Obviously, Amarim's old striker. Now we look at Sporting and again see that they're good at practically everything as well. So he can really do it all. High possession, also play on the counter quickly as needed. I think that's important too. Amazing box instinct. I mean, his positioning, he's everywhere in the attacking thirds, right? Just absolutely everywhere. Has elite movement, great box presence, dynamic across the entire pitch, well-rounded modern nine. Amarim's number 9, 5 out of 5 position and fit, of course. He has to be. His current ability, when you look at it overall, he does absolutely everything. From a 9, fast, strong, good size, great inside and outside the box. Kind of just all over, getting involved in the play. He's not an aerial threat though, and he has somewhat of an odd career arc and a lack of big league experience by the age of 26. And those would be my main negatives. He does not really score with his head. He's not going to win the ball in the air. Sporting and Amarim tend to keep it on the ground a little bit, but you do have to get it in the air a little bit more in the Premier League, I think. And again, a little bit of a weird career arc. It took a little bit of a late bloomer for a striker, which is not unusual. It's not like there haven't been good ones, but still a bit odd. And he's really performed only at Coventry and then Sporting by the age of 26. There are some concerns there, but in terms of current form, it's 5 out of 5. And if he performs as well as he's currently performing, it's also 5 out of 5. You can't get better than what he's doing right now if that translates to the Premier League. Just for what he's doing in all aspects of the game, passing, playmaking, scoring, practically everything. Cost-wise, he's going to be expensive. Does not have interest in United players, so that part shouldn't be in there. There's going to be a lot of competition, which will drive wages up. Probably not as high as Osimhen, but he's going to be fairly expensive, but still great player. So 3 out of 5 on the cost. Familiar with Amarim and system, but that's not always a good thing. We've seen that not work out. Elite finisher, elite physical speed and traits that will transfer well. Good in a possession team, good against low blocks. But there are, I think, personally, unignorable risks due to the lack of big league experience. So in that basis, I think he has it compared to Osimhen, where maybe Gyökeres could be better. Osimhen, I think, is more guaranteed. And so that's kind of the balance. I gave him a higher rating, Gyökeres, but I think there's slightly more chance he doesn't live up to the same expectations coming to the Premier League. So I would give him, should say 21 out of 25. I'll fix that. But 21 out of 25 is actually what it is. Same score as Osimhen, end of the day. So in conclusion, I think you go with either one of these if you're going for the more proven option. Either one of these that they're looking at, I think, is a good choice. Osimhen is going to guarantee you. Maybe Gyökeres could be better, but there's a little more risk involved. They both can be fairly expensive. They're also both at a point where they're going to be going on 27. That's not old. But yeah, there may be a little more pressure. You start bringing them in, and all of that. If you're going to go for potential, I think you go for Aghawa. That's what I would do. That's who I would prefer in that vein, because I think that skill set wise, he gives you that elite number 9 in the box, finishing chances, a skill set we don't have at all anywhere. Similar to the above two players in terms of how elite they are in goal scoring, he's an elite goal scorer who has faced low blocks, who's good in the box. That's the similarity of all three. I really don't want to buy another striker that does not play inside the box. I just don't. I think it's a huge risk. And the way that we're going under Amarim, possession-based, slowing the game down, things like that, you need someone who can get on the end of things. And because it's up to the team to create that, but you need someone who can get on the end of it. And I think all three of these players can. So it's really, I would like to see them pursue any of these three. And they've been interested. And so, kind of just based on the decision of whether they go for slightly more expensive, higher wages players here, or they continue to get someone who can kind of build and grow with the team in Agawa, who could be as good or better than any of them in that respect. So that's my coverage of these 5 strikers that United have been looking at. There's probably more, um, lesser known ones, lesser proven ones, more prospects, but I think that if you're going to get this summer, it's more likely they get someone that they really think is good, less of a risk, less of a project. And I think that the 3 there are less of a project. The other 2, I think, are also good players too. Um, there's not that many strikers out there otherwise. Um, but yeah, that's my rating on it. We'll see who they settle on. Obviously, they're gonna have A, B, C type of thing and work through it and see what's possible. There's likely to be heavy competition for a number of these players, and that will factor into it too. Um, but I think honestly, they can't go wrong with any of them. They really can't. Especially the 3 highlighted. I mean, I think they could go wrong with the other 2, quite honestly. Um, but the 3 will bring something we don't have in the team, and all of them would raise the physical flooring of the team dramatically, which I think is also very important. High intensity of action, especially from, I would say, Aghawa and Gyökeres as well. In that respect. So that's what I've got. Let me know what your thoughts on any of these players are. And obviously, if we learn more about who they're focusing on, I will spend a lot more time watching them. And if we get some more reports on Hagawa or anything like that as well that confirm or push it forward, just give me another excuse to watch more Portuguese football again. So that's okay. In the meantime, that's what I've got. Thank you for watching today's video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications on. See you in the next one.